Okay. I'd like to welcome all participants to the joint hybrid planning board meeting of January 8th. Hello. 2024. Call to order, Ms. Creighton.
Here.
Ms. Delicio.
Here.
Ms. Foley.
Here.
Mr. Only. Here. Ms. Philbrook.
Here.
And Ms. Tennant. I know, Laura, you said you're here, so you can unmute. Not.
You might be on the train, just a wait.
Okay. All right. Looks like we have a quorum tonight. I'd like to remind all board members, guests asked to be recognized by the chair if you wish to speak. This meeting is being recorded. And first item up is acknowledgement of receipt of correspondence. And I forwarded today a letter from Lorraine Iavoni, mostly addressed to the task force, but I forwarded to all of us this today. At this time, anybody from the...
We also had an email from Mr. Golofsky.
Mr. Who?
Golofsky?
It's from me.
I think that's part of his packet. I think
Part
it's
of the
part of his application.
part of what we're going.
Oh, it's not considered correspondence. Sorry.
Business.
Oh my God, it's an application.
Are you speaking? I can't hear you. Okay.
I said it was part of the application.
All right. Okay. Thanks. At this time, I'd like to allow anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the planning board with a limited amount of time, anything not on the agenda. Does anyone wish to speak from the public?
It was a snowball. They moved it. It's slow.
Thank you.
That was cleared up. All right, thank you. First up is a site plan review from the Calvin Properties LLC. This is a possible site plan approval to remove trailers and construct a building, which was approved by the Concom and the order of conditions. Yeah.
Right.
So I'll turn it over to Mr. Golofsky.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just excuse me just a second. Laura just texted me that she's listening in the car, but that she was muted and by the, so she's listening. She can text me if she needs to speak, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
Okay, so could you tell us what's going on here?
Sure thing. I'm Mark Lowski. I'm here tonight with Tim Brady, who through Calvin Properties owns property at 1 Beaver Dam Road. That I think you're all familiar with when we went on the cell signaling sidewalk. We got to view Tim's property from above. And the reason we're here is because we've had some back and forth with Paul Orlando as to whether we needed to be here. And we've been through this exercise before, and I don't know that any of you were on the planning board at that time, but in 2008, Tim added a second story to his property by way of a zoning board action. And there was some discussion at the time that took several months for the planning board as to whether or not we needed site plan approval. And it was based on whether or not the project was going to necessitate parking for 5 additional cars. And ultimately, the planning board said, after meeting after meeting, it was voted to advise the building inspector that the planning board recommends that he determine how many spaces are necessary for the 1 Beaver Dam Road Brady application using his best judgment. Well, this time we've been at the Conservation Commission, and in October we were before the zoning board, and we were before the zoning board to modify essentially a series of decisions that the zoning board has issued for Tim's property starting in 2001. In 2001, there was a variance that issued that allowed storage of property to be, or warehousing essentially, to be done on One Beaver Dam Road property. The reason for that is it's not a use that's identified in the table of commercial uses. Similarly, the parking schedule doesn't include a parking requirement for Tim's use. So that's how we ended up in that sort of quagmire in 2008. This time, Tim, after going to the Concom for this project, went to the zoning board, and we got permission to modify the 2001 decision, which allowed storage, but it had some conditions. And so what we asked the zoning board to do in October was for permission to clean the property up by removing 42 trailers and 15 storage containers and replacing them with a new building. That was going to reduce lot coverage, reduce footprints, and it was all consistent with the zoning board's order, with the Concom's order of conditions. I noticed in the packet that you sent for this meeting, you didn't include a copy of the zoning board decision. If you want that, I have them here if you feel as though you'd like to look at it. This is the October zoning board decision.
I think
it
it's in
was
our
in
meeting
our-
packet.
It's in our electronic
It's
packet.
Because in the posted packet on your website, it only has the Conservation Commission order of conditions. It didn't have the zoning. The zoning decision has the plans attached. I don't know if you, did you
I
get
think it
that?
was in the,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
that-
Yeah, we-
Perfect. The other thing I brought with me, just in case you had trouble reading, those plans are sets of plans that show you what Tim is proposing to do. I don't know whether you'd like these or not. Happy to share them with you. The ones attached to the zoning board decision are hard to read.
Thank you.
So what the two plans that Tim is passing out show you is the existing conditions and then the proposed conditions essentially. And you can see on the second page, I think, of that package is the second page is an existing conditions plan.
I think it's flipped. We have at least mine has the proposed first.
Yeah, proposals first. The existing is the second page, and you see along the northwesterly boundary, loads of storage containers and trailers. Those are partially within Conservation Commission buffer zone. They've been there for years. And what we're now proposing to do, what Tim is proposing to do, when you look at the first page, is remove all those storage containers and replace them with that building that's sort of behind the existing building. And he's going to restore that area and add some paving in an effort to make sure that we don't have improper runoff into the wetlands. There are currently 104 parking spaces on the property, and they don't get used. They're there. They wrap around the back of the building. You can see on the plan that you've got that there are some existing parking spaces, 13 of them, that are being relocated. But we're not proposing to add new parking spaces because there are plenty, and we don't want to create any additional lot coverage if we can avoid it. So there are two ways that we would end up here for site plan review. The issue that Paul Orlando is focusing on now is that on the table of uses, there's a footnote 1 that says any allowed use within the LC district requires site plan approval from the planning board as provided in this bylaw. And in the bylaw, site plan review is required if you're adding 5 or more parking spaces. Paul previously determined, after looking at the parking requirements for storage, that we didn't need to add parking spaces. Tim is not going to be adding employees, don't anticipate any real change in traffic. We did a calculation in 2008 that showed there are negligible vehicle trips to the storage building. If any of you have a storage unit, you know how infrequently you visit your storage unit. So this footnote says any allowed use within the LC district requires site plan approval as provided in the bylaw. This is an existing use. It's already there. We're not creating a new use. We're modifying an existing use. So our suggestion to Paul, as in 2008, was that we don't need to come to the planning board at this point after having been to the zoning board and Concom for site plan approval. And that this note really, which is what he's hanging his hat on, would relate to the introduction of a new use in the limited commercial district. So we're here to have you ask us any questions as to whether you, why we believe that we don't need to be here. We have all the materials we would need to come here, but we think that the zoning board reviewed everything that was pertained to what we're proposing to do. And other than that, the property is essentially in use and already improved. So I don't know whether you want to require that we jump through that hoop or not, but we will do whatever you suggest we need to do.
Any questions or comments from the board? We have a town planner coming on board in a week. You get it. I don't know if you'd be up on it to give us an opinion, but does the board have any questions or comments? Mary Owen.
I guess my only comment is, overarching, I would agree that you wouldn't need a site plan approval. Unfortunately, that's not how the law reads. It's a footnote 1 just for LCD, not for parking, that any allowed use needs a site plan approval. Fortunately, that's just the way it's written. And I don't know if we can just negate that.
No, I think that what that footnote says is any allowed use requires site plan approval from the planning board as provided in the bylaw. And if you look in the bylaw as to what requires site plan approval, it's if it requires 5 or more parking spaces.
For 6.3,
It is 12.6.2. It's the bottom of the page if you have the new ordinance.
I don't have a 12.6.2.
Yeah, there's.
You have the new ordinance then. Is yours September of 23?
Yeah.
On the front?
Mine's March, so we didn't change anything.
No,
from
they
March.
just changed the,
Like a
the numbering of paragraphs.
Right,
So
so
the site plan review stuff was moved.
it says applicability.
I don't have an updated copy.
Each, I'm looking at it online. So the site plan review for any new development, expansion, or change of use other than a single family or 2-family residence, which would, under the parking schedule, require 5 or more parking spaces, regardless of the number of parking spaces pre-existing.
And
So it doesn't say new, it doesn't say, yeah.
It's also under the parking schedule, but
Yeah.
the parking schedule doesn't have anything. So that's where we ended up.
So, but our table of uses also might give us, I mean, it seems to me that you're reducing pervious area, that you're consolidating things, you're kind of cleaning things up. You've been to the Concom, who has looked at water quality from my perspective. And then our table of uses, back to that, says that under commercial, under accessory uses. The accessory uses or structures on the same lot with and customarily incidental to a permitted main use on the same premises, including off-street parking, is allowed in the LCD.
Why are we going to accessory uses?
Well, I'm just trying to give us a opportunity here to move this forward. And it seems to me that this is, at least, I'm not sure it's an accessory use, but it's a structure on the same lot. And maybe it's not incidental to the permitted use, but it's actually reducing the footprint of the main use on the same street. And it includes off-street parking. And that is allowed by right in the LCD. So if you sort of count, do we have a square feet of the number of you know, the lot coverage of your units that you're removing? Looks like you've got to be removing more square footage of.
You have it in the zoning summary on the plan that I gave you.
Okay.
On the upper right hand.
Oh, I see, in the little table there, yeah.
You can see that it shows you how we're reducing lot coverage and parking spaces staying the same. It says 104 before and after.
Total structures and impervious surface existing is 238,000 square feet, and the proposed is 193,000 square feet. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're reducing the impervious coverage from 81% to 65%. So it seems to me that that you could make an argument that it was incidental to the permitted main use because it's diminishing the impacts of the main use. And the fact that the Concom has reviewed it.
And I think, you know, the site plan entails lots of different things, lighting, landscaping, you name it. This is already an approved property. And so we feel as though we're in a different situation. And we don't feel as though we're introducing a new use. I know, and it says any allowed use. I don't know what they mean, because we're not an allowed use, we're a use by variance.
But you have been allowed it by variance.
We're already allowed, and we went through the same thing when we expanded the building before with Paul. And I don't ever remember, I don't know when this footnote was introduced.
Last November.
Was it?
No, it was in, we took all the footnotes were verbatim from the prior version of the.
Oh.
So I don't know when it was in place, yeah.
I've tried to figure out.
Yeah.
If you look in the back of the zoning bylaw, it says when things were done, but it doesn't refer to the footnotes.
The footnote, yeah, anyway, we could.
Can I ask another question? Are you gonna change how you move around the property at all?
No, it'll stay the exact same. Right now, it's been like this for a long time, really long time. And the way you move around it in terms of like when you come into the front of the property and then you go to the back, it's essentially the same as this road shown, the proposed road shown. It's just that there are some storage trailers on your left as you're going. If you're going up that road this way, you know, you've got trailers on both sides, whereas now it's just going to be like a nice building.
And the road's going to be paved.
And the road will be paved. And on your left this will all be field right here. I own the farm stand in Manchester, Utopia Farms, and we're gonna do like our cut flowers are gonna be grown on this field mostly. It'll be some like, you know, pollinator habitat where we just like let it grow tall and then we cut it in the fall. But it'll be also cut flowers. So when you drive up here, you'll see a field and flowers and whatever here. Then we'll have the building as shown here, which is everything's outside of the 100-foot buffers, like how we've designed it. That's why it's got that weird corner on the building, is to keep it out of the 100-foot buffers.
And with respect to the butters, there are two abutters, trustees of reservations and cell signaling. And cell signaling's been supporting Tim, and Tim's been supporting cell signaling. And both cell signaling and Tim have been in constant contact with the trustees. The trustees generally don't vote to support things, but they, in this case, certainly aren't opposing, and they've reviewed these plans. They're reviewing. So we're actually cell signaling's meeting with the trustees to go over lots of different issues, but the two abutters we have don't have any problems with the project.
So then I guess I would propose that on 12.6.2.1, it clarifies any new development, which you're not doing, expansion, which you're not doing, right?
They are doing a new development. They're
We
building a
are-
new building.
We are expanding. We're expanding to some extent. We're eliminating 50 some odd, how many, 50 something
Yeah, 50.
trailers and containers, and the building we're replacing with it is 3 stories. So it's going to have more volume than the trailers.
I was trying to find a way.
Oh, well, square footprint of the building is gonna be way smaller
Yeah.
than, like, if you add up all the trailers and the containers and all that stuff that's over there.
So instead of just doing the site plan, if you said you're prepared, why don't we just do it instead of saying reasons not to? I mean, if it's gonna be that quick and easy, like, why don't we just do it?
If we were to do it, obviously we have to file a formal application and you have to have a public hearing. And then if you look at the site plan review requirements, there are a lot of things that we have to do that are rather redundant because they're existing conditions. And we can do it, but it just will be expensive and time consuming. And it's not gonna, I don't believe it's gonna change the project.
How would that change?
So I want to turn this around a little bit. What is the risk of us not granting site plan approval?
Oh, and I don't think you would deny us. I'd be surprised, because we're cleaning the property up and everybody thinks it's great what we're doing, the Concom and the ZBA. So I'd be shocked if.
So could somebody challenge this and,
Challenge the fact that we're not doing it?
yeah,
Yes, that's our risk. We don't anticipate that anybody's gonna do that. It's just, I'm sure you've dealt with Paul quite a bit. Paul doesn't like to make decisions if he thinks there's any sort of gray area. He deflects to the zoning board and to you.
sure.
And I don't know if he's listening, but he's careful.
Does a great job, though. It's wonderful.
He's careful. And we met with him, and he said, you know, this footnote, I think you need to go talk to the planning board. So that's why we're here.
So if we were to do a site plan review, we could waive most of the requirements,
You could.
which might make it much easier if you decided that's a
Or we
better
decide.
alternative, or if we decide, yeah, exactly.
Yes, and you know, Tim's eager to get going. The Concom acted on this at the end of 2022, and then I think it was the end of 23.
It'll be 3 years in March.
Oh, and that was extended,
Wow.
and then
We had a, yeah, and also the bylaws are being rewritten at the same time, so we're kind
oh,
of
that's the other
limbo,
thing.
so-
Obviously, the bylaws now allow for 55-foot high buildings in the limited commercial district. Tim is not taking advantage of that. He's building a 34-foot high building.
So, well, I can see your point. I guess, to me, I mean, it is our job to do site plan review, and if you're gonna take something down, I mean, like night sky, lights, I mean, there are still things that I mean, we don't really know until you said 34 feet. I mean, there's just not a whole lot of information to go by, like, that's what I mean, like, I guess
Yeah.
we're taking your good word, but
I've done all that in the past. I've done,
But
you were
here
on
to
the.
do a
remember
different
I-
job,
I
so-
did a couple of years of site plan review, and I did everything that the board asked, and you can see a finished product of the most recent building that I built, which is on
It's-
Beaver Dam Road on the right. But yeah, night sky compliancy and the landscaping plan has essentially been done by the Conservation Commission. Just in terms of, not the conservation, sorry, our engineer.
The
or the
building, building is a steel building. There's nothing, there's not new light, not, what's the lighting? Is there?
The lighting inside is just, it's just all LED.
No, the out exterior.
Exterior, it's all dark sky compliant above each. It meets all the code for life. It is dark sky compliant, so it's LED exterior lighting.
I mean, we would ask questions like, you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
motion censored, it's not gonna be on 24/7. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess this are the things that we would do in a site plan, so I guess to
Absolutely.
not address these, I feel like we would be negligent to our duty, so I don't see why we wouldn't do it. If the building inspector is saying we should be doing it.
No, he didn't say
Nothing.
you should be doing it. He said he didn't know whether we should be doing it. And he didn't want to just issue a building permit.
I guess to me, we don't approve this, and I feel like it's ridiculous that we didn't catch this and put this in the table of uses since we have it. So I mean, maybe we should add that to our running list to just add this, so you don't have to come back for a variance in the future.
It's a benign use. I mean, in the town,
But-
really, I have a lot of residents of the town that I do business with, and the product that they're getting from this.
I completely agree. I
What
just,
it is now to what it's going to be is like night and day, you know, and it's. I think that we're just trying to avoid site plan reviews because it can be time consuming, expensive, and you guys have enough going on that we were trying to just look at the laws and interpret them in a way
We
that.
weren't trying to hurt anything.
Absolutely.
I just have a difference of opinion with Paul. And last time when we did it, I think the footnote was there. It was all about whether or not the project was going to necessitate 5 additional parking spaces. We went through all sorts of calculations with Paul. We took counts of vehicles that were coming and going from the property, Tim's storage facility in Ipswich, other bylaws, and ultimately he came back with a letter that said essentially that we weren't creating, in his view, we weren't going to require 5 parking spaces.
does it make sense, Ron, if we could just come up with a list and say like, this is what we want in our site plan to make it easier so you don't have to do the whole thing? I just feel like not doing this and not checking the box on our end leaves us a little bit open. I mean, for me, it's lighting, just tell us what your parking is. And I mean, like we said, Concom and ZBA have already chimed in. So for me, it's lighting and just the parking plan to show that on a piece of paper that we can say, yes, they did provide us this.
You do have a parking plan, obviously, but the thing that you're missing here is any lighting. And most of the lighting would already be existing lighting down in this end of the road.
There's one, so this building will have a couple lights on it, obviously, in the exterior. It's only got one overhead door and one pass door on the front. And that would be the section that's 110.7 feet long. And then on the side, we would have like another exit over there, but it's not an entrance. Like you wouldn't go to that door to go in. But if you know, in the event of emergency, you could get out there. So there'll be a light over that too. So it'll have lights like on each wall of the building. This will just be like shining down to illuminate the side of the building. But I get your point. I've been like me talking about it now isn't as good as like site review, obviously, where you can look at it and you're not just taking my word for it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, just looking at it from this, I assume, like you said, there's gonna be 2 doors and there's entrances like in hallways inside,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
temperature.
Yep.
So then, I mean, emergencies inside, like right now, everything's accessible outside. There isn't like a plan. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so what happened if something?
Do we not have that? I guess it's
But
not in
that's-
this.
We're here to say, should we talk about this stuff? And
Sure.
I think,
Oh, yeah,
I don't know why we wouldn't.
that's on the,
This is a really simplified kind of version of it, but it's the engineering firm has developed that.
this. This would be,
Yeah, much of this.
this is the building plan.
Yeah, it's architectural. If you want to
We can't
see.
hang our hats
I
on,
know,
oh, they
I
just
know,
showed us the
totally.
picture, so we said, yeah, we'd have to.
Yeah, but if you want to see it, I'm not now, but whatever you guys want.
I don't think it's gonna be an issue, I just think we need to go through the motions, unfortunately, it's my opinion.
So,
Has the fire department looked at this?
I haven't had the fire department look at it, no. That would be part of the building permit process to have them approve it. It'll be sprinklered. So
I don't know that it's part of the building permit
The,
process.
the fire
Permit
department
has to
check
check off that,
before you get the building permit, they have to sign off.
so that's one area where site access, a site plan review would have a formal review for this, for the fire department to make sure that they can access it. So, that's, so I just looked through our design standards quickly, just to recap what they are for. And there are a number of things for special permit, site plan review: lighting, noise, topographic standards and clearing, site development standards, pedestrian vehicle access, aesthetics, landscaping, walls and fences, utilities, security, and fiscal impact. So it seems to me, at least on the first blush, that you are a positive impact on all of those. So, Mr. Chair, with one question for Mark, if that's okay. And that is, if we were to move ahead without a site plan, without site plan review, we do have specific outdoor lighting standards, which are shielding, light trespass, prohibiting searchlights and so forth. How would we bind you to our lighting standards in our issuance, so that we know?
I think that's easy. I think that, Paul will circulate the building permit application. You have the ability to, suggest to Paul that there be a condition on the grant of the building permit requiring that lighting conform to the lighting standard.
Okay. So that solves that. And then I guess the other one is noise. There's a noise standard as well, about loading and unloading and opening and closing and blah, blah, blah. So that's a noise standard.
Hours of operation.
What?
I mean, there's a lot. Hours of operation.
Yeah, so I would suggest that if we wanted to, that we would want to make sure that the building permit, or, advise the building inspector that the building permit include compliance with section 6.3.4 and 6.3.5.
Obviously, there's already this use there.
Yeah, it's already.
So
we've been approved for the hours that we
the
do
same
now, the other
hours
buildings that
as have been previously approved.
But if it's
And the planning board looked at the other building that was built recently in
2017.
2017. And
Unit ZBA.
So the planning board, we did site plan review.
We did site plan review on that because it's an abutting, but a separately owned piece of property by Tim. Different entity owned it. It was a piece of property that was created by Tim, combining a piece of his with a piece that came from John Donovan from the Mac. And so that
you would think it was part of the property, just like by looking at it, but legally, the way that the deed and whatever had to have a different entity that owned it. So that's why we did site plan review for that property.
and
Continuous.
the planning board was accommodating. I don't know that any of you were on the planning board in 2017.
Pretty old.
that does make you old.
Well, you
It means that you're seasoned.
Experienced.
I remember going through a lot of pretty gardens.
That was a while.
So you're thinking of a site plan review, and then you're thinking of having those items being as a condition to the building permit. Is that what I'm hearing? Without a site plan review, is that what you're?
That's what I'm thinking. I just feel like this has been reviewed, and if they didn't have the Concom or the ZBA review, then I would think differently, but and I would say that that section I read earlier gives us that license to advise the building inspector that accessory use, an accessory use. No, it's not an accessory use, you're right, or structure.
I'd be-
Accessory uses or structure on the same lot with customarily incidental to the permitted main use. So it's the same main use with a reduction in footprint. So one would argue that that is an incidental or even a negative, a positive, you know, a good thing.
Primary use can't be incidental to it.
So I'm trying to,
Be happy to have, Paul be advised by the planning board that the building permit shouldn't issue without attaching the requirements from the site plan review that both of you were referring to.
I want to make that up.
I have one other thing that I would advise the building inspector, and that he asked the fire department to do more than just look at the compliance with building code, but that the fire chief actually can get in and around it, and that, you know, take, you know, it feels that it's, because that would certainly be a site plan review.
Fire department will have better access. If you look at the existing conditions plan and the way these trailers are at the far end of the building, it'd be harder for fire trucks to navigate. When this is done, it's going to be really much easier access all around the building. And these trailers, they're all buddied up together. There's no way you could get behind them. Not that there would be any real danger there.
And it looks narrow between the existing building and the proposed, that one side, right? That 81
No, do we have the
south side.
site plan review from 2008?
I don't have it. I mean, I have it, but I don't have it with me.
If we had that, maybe we could just reinforce it, like look at it and agree to it and say, we want to do that plus lighting standards. I don't even know what that said. I mean, I just feel like we're.
If you'd like, if that's important, I could dig that out, either town clerk or my office. And if need be, we can come back to another meeting and go over that with you if you want.
Well, at a minimum, I think we should have that to say we've already done it, so we can make sure that there's nothing drastically that we're missing from 2008 to 2023.
There wasn't a site plan review in 2008 because it wasn't required. The site plan review we referred to is 2017 for the adjacent property for a new building on a previously unimproved lot.
So there's never been a site plan. So I misunderstood that. So I thought there already was
Oh, no.
one.
I thought you
So-
wanted to see what conditions might have been added to the other building.
So there are no conditions. My point was, well, there was some, then we can just say, okay, we need to stick with these. They can't change, and then add dark sky, but there are none to reaffirm.
This property's been developed over 50 years. Different rules and regulations. Tim's father was less concerned about aesthetics and playing by the rules than Tim is. And Tim has embarked on a project of cleaning up his father's property ever since he's taken title to it. So the mess was something that wasn't Tim's creation.
What's in those trailers?
It's just stored items, just storage stuff. Yeah.
Nothing hazardous or anything.
No, it's household storage.
Mary, you had a question?
I just, you know, I think we're all trying to figure out ways to find a big loophole or something. But just as a planning board member, if we opt not to do a site plan, I want to know legally what we're hanging our hat on. You know, I think it's fair to say that it's an improvement and we're all for it and we think it's great. But unfortunately, we have bylaws that we have to go by. And, you know, if Mr. Golofsky can tell us specifically again how he thinks like 12.6 doesn't apply, I just don't see how we can legally say we don't need to.
I would suggest that, with all due respect, that what you say is, this is an existing use. We're not introducing a new use. And it's not, and the modification won't necessitate with 5 or more parking spaces, and consequently, site plan review isn't required.
So I guess my only thing with that, interpreting 12.6, excuse me, 2.1, is it doesn't say require 5 more parking spaces. It just means that it's a site that needs 5 or more parking spaces.
I think what it says is that if the project would require an additional 5 or more parking spaces.
It says require 5 or more parking spaces regardless
Of the number of spaces
pre-existing, yeah.
existing.
So I just don't read it as a new development, expansion, or change, which would require 5 more parking spaces.
I agree with you. And,
Okay.
when Paul did the calculation for the building in 2017, he came up with something less than, for that big building, less than 5. And when we did the addition in 2008, we also came up with less than 5.
Oh, so your point is that you don't think it needs 5 parking spots at all, even though you have
And
104.
and Paul, that's the conclusion that Paul came.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't know, this time, instead of talking about the 5 parking spaces, Paul was talking about note 1. That's, and
That's the use issue.
I didn't believe that note was applicable in this instance. And he's not sure, and that's why we're here.
So is there an employee on site?
It's just myself and I have 1 employee, yeah,
So you have so that's 2 parking spots.
out of 104. Yeah.
Out of 5.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if we can get below 5.
Oh, but
Those exist.
the employee
Exactly.
and Tim are already there, taking care of the rest of the property. So there are no new employees.
No, and I think might be talking about 2 different things, because I don't read this as saying it needs 5 more. It just means that it's a site that needs 5 or more
That
as a
the project would
site.
require 5 or more.
Yes, just that the existing land use requires 5 or more parking
You know,
spaces.
I think what Mary's asking is, if this were a new project, brand new project on a vacant piece of land, how much parking would it require?
Yes.
Well, we did that.
Yeah.
2017.
Yes.
And
I
it
know
was
this
less
well,
than
yeah.
5.
Yeah,
And when
it's less than 5, yeah.
It's less than 5.
Less than 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So you've got yourself and an employee, and then with people come in and out of the storage, that's not really parking.
Yeah,
It's probably not 3 people in a day.
Right.
yeah, it's very, very,
Okay.
Actually.
we have access control history that I can like look back.
I'm looking at it right now.
So I can
So they
tell it's like
fit
a
under
half a
5.
10. It's not, it's very minimal.
Okay.
I'm just curious, is this a pre-engineered building?
Yeah, exactly, pre-engineered metal.
Is it heated?
Yep, it's heated, air conditioned, dehumidified, sprinklered, all LED motion sensor lights. We'll have an elevator, just like the building that we did in 2017. Very, very similar to that.
And it's for storage unit, personal storage unit.
Exactly.
So you're not doing boat storage or
No boats, no
car
cars.
storage or that kind of stuff. And so the LCD does prohibit any toxic materials in the LCD.
We build that into our rental agreement. I mean, it's,
Okay.
at the end of the day, you guys know, like, I really stress, like, don't put flammable stuff in the storage.
Actually,
It's in my best interest too,
actually,
so it's in our rental.
the rental agreement says storage of food, liquid, hazardous materials or liquids, flammable materials or liquids, propane, oil, gasoline, etc., toxic materials or liquid of any other substance deemed dangerous or hazardous is strictly prohibited. And Tim has the right to terminate leases if they violate that.
Did you find the parking spots?
Pardon?
Oh, I thought you were looking
Parking
how
spots.
many parking it was required in
Oh.
2017.
No, I just have a note here, looking at an email, it says, when your architect, Ken Savoy, in 2008, said that all agreed that no additional parking would be required due to the nature of the self-storage business that generates only occasional and sporadic use, and also because the amount of parking currently available is adequate.
Am I allowed to say something for the public about this? Hi. I hope it's not open for business, but I rent space from them. And I have to tell you, there isn't a time that I was there that there were more than 2 cars. Any time of the day or the night. They close at 7 o'clock at night, nobody goes. And I think that's for safety, probably.
Well, Tim, I gotta go buy her a drink.
I didn't know, this is not, I didn't know.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't like that.
But I think that utility, knowing from other storage units, are pretty good and safe. So that's all I have to say. And I don't think we need more spaces for parking. Really.
There's a lot of parking.
So,
Where on this map is that other building from?
Oh, it's not on that map. It's
I know, but
Different properties.
I know, but like where in relation, like how
I'll
far?
show you.
It's over here. It would be like the bottom.
And so what year did you get that?
2017.
Okay.
Can I ask one more?
Laura, yeah.
Are the 104 parking spaces paved?
You have the pervious area.
Yes, they are for the most part,
Pervious.
yes, they are all paved. Yep.
And my final question was about utilities.
Yeah.
Do you guys have, is there a bathroom currently? Is this building have a bathroom? Like how does this?
Yeah, as Mass General Law goes, self-storage requires no flow. So we do have an office in a different building with bathrooms at the other place. So this building won't have a bathroom. It's difficult too, because we don't have water and sewer up there. It's a well and a septic system. So it's kind of like limits what you can do with the property inherent, just because you can't like build apartments or condos because you have a septic system. But yeah, but to answer your question, the building will not have a bathroom. There are bathrooms in another building from the office location.
Laura, any comments?
Ron, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's.
Thanks. Yes. I had heard the applicant mention a field for growing flowers, and I didn't see that in the plan, but I just want to confirm that aside from storage, that there were no fuel tanks or chemical storage or anything else that was in the vicinity upstream of the wetlands. That was my only question.
No tanks whatsoever. No.
The answer was no, Laura.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, the pleasure of the board here.
So I'd like to make a motion, I think. This is kind of, I wish we had a planner here because that would make life easier. Well, so I'm gonna suggest,
Well, we could pass it over to our next meeting.
maybe we'll anyway, but I would like to move that we, inform the building inspector that a site plan review is not required. However, we have some suggestions, for the building inspector to the requirements as conditions for a building permit. And because we don't have the planner here to draft them, I wonder whether Mr. Glovsky would be willing to draft that.
I could, if both of the members who suggested conditions.
Well, they were written in 12.6.
And there,
Oh.
those in 6, I think that we would just simply ask that they be in those of the ones I had suggested with the lighting standards in 6.3.4 outdoor lighting standards and the noise standards in 6.3.5. And I guess I would also add the hazardous materials prohibitions in 5. Going the wrong way. Which you indicated it's not a problem.
Will there be a last?
5 design operation guidelines, 5.10.1. Those are the prohibitions against storage of hazardous materials.
I'd be happy to propose conditions that Paul could add to the building permit if he is willing to issue the building permit. And I'll send them to the board first so you can review them. And if you don't think they're adequate or do we need to do something else, we're not trying to shirk our responsibilities. We just don't think that it makes any sense. And we're trying to be practical.
Yeah, and I think it's reasonable to conclude because there will be fewer than 5 parking spaces required for this use. Yes, I'm planning for this.
So we get it to us next week. I'll get it to the board for them to review, and then we can talk about it at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, I'm gonna second Ron's,
At that point.
his motion.
Okay.
And then you want to wait till 2 weeks?
Oh,
for
actually,
final?
we can hold up. Everybody's happy with that.
Well, what's the motion? The motion was to have Glovsky draft up.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
points.
Yeah. And can I have a third one? I'd like to build the fire chief to give us a letter.
So my concerns were signs, lighting, hours, utilities, parking, and then make sure, I'm sure that the lease has it, but no habitation of any kind. I'm sure the lease has that,
No,
right? But yeah.
We can't, zoning wouldn't allow it. And on the signs, the sign ordinance controls whatever signage we do. So I don't know that you're planning any new signs.
There are no new signs. There'll be like a small sign just for like fire department to identify which building it is on the property.
But if you want, you can,
No,
I'm sure Tim will give you a tour of the
Yeah.
building that was built in 2017.
Absolutely, yeah. It's pretty boring.
But, and then if you could dig up the 2017.
The 2017.
Site plan
Site
review.
plan review.
site
Of the
plan
others,
review.
so we just look and see what conditions it's gonna do.
Okay, I'll send that up together with the proposed conditions. And if you need me at the next meeting to review it with you, I'd be happy to come.
All right, we'll let you know.
So are we making this determination based on a reading of 12.6.2.1?
Yes.
12.6.2.1. Who's determining that? Who's interpreting it that way? I guess, so where are we getting the information that we're supporting that this is the decision we're making? I'm just not clear on if we're checking the boxes.
You properly interpreting the footnote is what you're asking. I think we're
The number of parking spaces?
yes,
Paul,
but we don't have anything.
yes, we can get that from
Okay.
Paul because we did it with Paul before. And I'm sure he's not going to change I can't imagine he'd change his mind.
Can you
So
have
it's-
can you have them document that to the
Yeah.
planning board because
Yep.
In my opinion, that's the only way that I could vote to say it doesn't need a site plan if we have written from the building inspector about the parking.
I think that's a perfectly appropriate thing to do. So we'll get something from Paul saying that the proposed project wouldn't necessitate.
Okay, so I don't think we need to
No,
vote. I
no,
don't think we need to vote this. I think we just need to agree that this is what the direction we're heading, and we'll move forward with what we get from you guys.
I guess I would also sort of, to Mary's rationale, also sort of that right now we have concurrence that we agree with Mr. Glovsky's interpretation of note 1. That's
not-
I
the
think it's
agreement.
irrelevant.
So that's-
That's not,
We don't need to
we don't need to.
because it's
5 to 2.
Spaces. All right. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I didn't think I was
The
gonna.
motion has to be withdrawn.
oh, well, we draw the motion.
I'll second.
Motion has been withdrawn.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
I'm glad you made a unanimous decision.
On your way out, in that January, you were going to submit the special permit on
Yes.
self-signaling.
Yes, we're
January,
in the
and
throes of it right now.
it's not coming next meeting.
It's going to be filed on or before the 18th of January. That's the plan.
Okay.
But you're gonna get the filing and then obviously set a date for a public hearing. We're coming, I think, next week. Or are you discussing consultants tonight?
It's on the agenda, but I don't see Greg,
He's
Greg's.
been on vacation.
He's
Yes.
sick. He's not sick.
Okay.
Well,
And I don't see him on, Greg, are you on?
We'll have,
I don't think, we're probably gonna pass that over because he's the one that's been,
yeah, that's,
we did get a list of consultants late this afternoon from, Yale. And I think I saw that come in, but I don't know where Greg stands on that. I don't know.
I think that Peter Bordeaux, who may be on the meeting, has been in contact with Greg.
Yeah.
And he submitted some possibilities if Greg didn't have enough. And I believe they were very close to coming up with the list.
check
Yeah,
with
so we'll
Greg.
have a town planner engaged in the next week, so, maybe that would help move things along.
Well,
So can I just ask a question about the process? So you're gonna submit on the, or on or about the 18th, is that our next meeting? That's on or about our next
Yeah.
meeting.
It's our next meeting. Yeah.
What, so you're not gonna do common, what, how do we envision, do we envision a overview presentation before the public hearing? Or do we wanna just have the, all of your presentations in the public hearing?
well, the filing is going to be fairly comprehensive.
Right.
And you're going to need time to digest it, for sure. And our assumption was that at that meeting where you have the materials for the first time, you'll set a date for a public hearing. And at that public hearing, we would anticipate making a full presentation with all our troops.
It might be,
So I envisioned it a little differently, but, it was gonna be consultants with specific, the public hearing will include the consultants.
No, I
A
think
traffic, no,
we're going to submit a traffic study. It's going to include parking study and flow and all that. And we're going to then, I would assume, going to pass that along to your traffic person to read it and determine whether they're in agreement.
but what about questions from the public on traffic? Would the
or any
consult-
issue, yeah.
It
I-
comes
I
in,
mean,
and be addressed to our consent, I would think.
I'm just trying to follow I thought the way the ZBA did the 40A was kind of, they had 3 public hearings, each one covered a different.
Oh, I don't know. I would,
And maybe we do.
I anticipate you're going to have more than one public hearing. The public hearing will be continued so that you can have time to get the responses from your peer reviewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then may want to have a meeting without us to go over all that stuff, and then we'll come back.
There'll be
And
more than one public hearing.
oh, I suspect there'll be 3 or 4.
That's
I would think we might want to do an overview. And then, you know, the next night with, you know, traffic and stormwater. Stormwater probably will take a night. And then, or, you know, whatever topics make sense.
That might make it easier for us because we wouldn't need to bring the whole team.
Right,
every
and then
time.
we don't have to have all of
That's what I
our
was-
sub-consultants
That's what
sit
I was
through.
thinking.
So if we parse it out and group like things together, landscape and stormwater, I don't know what they,
I
and
think
then,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
any architectural, I don't know,
There's this thermal, geothermal.
yeah, that would be site work, but, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
For that.
Are you still planning on geothermal, just because I?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Sorry. for
You're
the long
welcome.
time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, the next item is the A&R 1 Pine Street and 41 Central Street,
All right.
Parker.
Hopefully this will be much simpler.
You're on.
All right, my wife and I reside at 41 Central Street, the corner, right Forster Leach House, corner of Central and Pine Street. reflect One Pine Street. One Pine Street was originally the barn for our home, so it was originally all one lot. Sometime back, it was quite a ways back, it was divided into two separate lots. So just to, might be easier to show on this than is what you're looking at, but this is the existing lot as it is now. Okay, the shared driveway belongs to One Pine Street. When our house was heavily renovated in 2007 prior to our purchase, we purchased in 2010. Two-car garage was, a carriage house was taken down, two-car garage was built in the back end of our house. So we require access to our two-car garage and for turning and whatnot. And the fact that One Pine Street has always owned the shared driveway, but more importantly, there was a very poorly written easement that we inherited when we bought the property in 2010, was always problematic to us for access to our property. And the other problem is, you probably noticed, we take a lot of pride in our property, and the shed that's in the driveway of our driveway, essentially, you see it right as you pull up there, has not been well maintained, and the fencing between the two properties not been well maintained. So an opportunity came up this fall to purchase One Pine Street. We decided that it would make good sense to do that and rewrite an easement that would better benefit both parties. So we've been working with Paul and Hancock Associates hard with coming up with what you have in front of you, which is essentially the lot is the One Pine Street remains over 6,000 square feet. The frontage is not reduced. The setback to the structure is not reduced.
One Pine Street has how much frontage?
39.5 feet.
Yeah, so it's it doesn't have the minimum frontage.
It's what's existing. It's what it's always been. What it was approved as years ago, probably prior to.
39 is on Pine Street.
39.5.
Oh,
Oops, I'm sorry.
okay.
That's less than the required. It's not. What district?
D?
General.
General or D?
No.
General.
It's general on the plan.
But minimum frontage in the general is 60 feet, right?
Right, there's no, this is an existing lot. There's no reduction or change to that existing frontage. There's no way to increase that frontage. There's no practical way to increase or change that frontage.
When does this become D?
It was grandfathered in at 40, 30.
When does it
D.
become?
No, I thought the heater was D.
What is this one?
But residential district D is still 6,000 with 60 feet. It's not materials.
One time.
So they said both lots remain over 6,000 square feet and no setback. They're being compromised. Paul studied it very hard. And
Paul wrote to us that he didn't have an issue with this, just for the board's information.
Well,
There.
so One Pine Street currently has 39.5 feet of frontage on Pine Street and some number of feet on 19 feet on Central. So the sum of those is 40 and 20 is roughly 48 feet, right? And you're reducing So
60
what,
feet.
yeah, so what, how does One Pine Street access their property?
Well, they're through on the same, they're going to access the same shared driveway. We're just gonna grant an easement to them for access to their parking spaces.
But an A and, I understand, but an A and R says that there's access, and the shared driveway is a legal matter between the two parties, but in fact, if that doesn't take place, there's no access to One Pine Street, the back of One Pine Street.
That's still the case.
What?
It's the same.
No, currently they can drive, look at the existing, they own access
It's the same driveway.
off Central.
Different color.
Right, but the same as us, we didn't have any ownership of the driveway, yet we were granted access to our.
Yeah, but you have plenty of frontage on your,
But nowhere for a driveway. The shared driveway is
yeah, it's about that.
it's
It's,
required by.
I feel like we're taking a non-conforming lot and making it less non-conforming. I mean, I understand.
Making it less non-conforming.
Yeah, One
I
Pine.
agree, we're making it less
I
non-conforming.
mean, more non-conforming, more non-conforming. I mean, I understand why you want to do it. It makes perfect sense, but I don't think it's any.
I don't know, doesn't,
Strikes me as a non-conforming to the CBA.
Mhm. Hate to say it, but
Because why?
Because they're not, I'm sorry,
you're making a non-conforming lot more non-conforming. You're taking, if you take the sum, you're supposed to have 60 feet of frontage. This lot probably predates zoning. Oh, that would be, but you have 48 feet of, or if I now, if I'm 58. Oh, almost 60. So currently you have almost 60 feet of frontage on Pine and Central.
Well, it's not contiguous.
Agreed. But now the only frontage you're gonna have, and frontage is the requirement for A&Rs, is 39 feet on Pine Street. And your access is subject to something that is, to us, illusionary. We don't know.
Landlocking it.
Yeah, you're essentially landlocking that parcel.
For the
So-
easement,
What?
except for the easement.
Well,
So
I mean,
how
there are properties that only have street parking. They were landlocking, I'm not, there are properties that only have on-street parking. I mean, we're not required, we're going to grant parking spaces dedicated to that, but we're not required to have parking spaces.
Oh, you are required to have parking
Okay.
spaces. So my suggestion would be maybe just to turn this over to town council. Let's not.
did Paul give you any reasons why did you talk to Paul Orlando?
Extremely extensively, multiple times.
What were his reasons for approval? Give you any?
For approval, he saw nothing that would disapprove it. He studied it very hard.
Frontage alone is an issue.
When was
What's
this?
the pleasure of the board want to do?
So- There's a copy of the previous A&R. We have that? No,
It probably predates zoning,
I think it predates
maybe.
it. I mean, we're making 41 more conforming.
That's true.
I just don't know how you can get rid of all frontage.
Right.
Like legally, you just can't say an approval not required and have no frontage, even if you're gonna give an easement. We can't consider that in our review.
Now you say no frontage, you mean?
You're removing the frontage from
Country Street.
The frontage that provides access.
Yeah.
Right, but we're making the frontage on this lot.
but the frontage needs to be on the street.
Right, but we're increasing the frontage on this lot.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but both lots have to have.
That's conforming.
Right, well, this one does.
enough.
No, but it has what was previously approved.
That's not what we're being asked to do. You had
I think the
39.
board is conflicted here. I think maybe we should get an opinion.
So I'm not
Right.
seeing this, but this 39 plus this, I'm wondering if that's how this got approved before they added the two.
Still doesn't get you.
I know, but I'm just saying maybe, well, it's 39 and then I don't know where, is it 7, 39 and 7 and almost 19? It's really close,
And almost
actually.
19.
That's close to 60.
Ron, there's a hand raised from Mr. Small at Hancock.
Hi, if you don't mind, may I chime in?
Go ahead, Mr. Small. Could you identify?
Yep, I'm the surveyor. I know you're saying that we're cutting off access, but it's got frontage on Front Street. That's its access. It doesn't have vehicular access, but it's got access. And I didn't think you could combine the two frontages on two different streets to maintain full access. So the 39.5 is the frontage it had.
Just trying to figure out how they approved it. So,
Well, this apparently it was approved in 1987.
well, then we need that picture.
It was approved in 1987 under the two buildings on one lot. So the property lines were created at that point, which really had nothing to do with zoning. It was just arbitrarily created the way it was.
When was it split?
In 89.
Well, that's definitely proposed zoning.
That's right, but it got approved under the two buildings under one lot that the buildings predated zoning. So it didn't need to. It has, by right, the ability to divide the lot if the two buildings existed prior to zoning. So that's how it was originally divided.
Go ahead, George.
I'm looking at the ANR handbook. We have to, in order for us to find this as a subdivision lot not required, which is an approval not required, there are 3 conditions. The lots shown on such plans must front on one of 3 types of ways. So it does, they certainly have frontage, doesn't. The lots shown on the plan must meet the minimum frontage requirements as specified. So it does not do that. And a planning board determination that the vital access to such lots as contemplated otherwise exists.
That is the case.
That's the key here, is that you're taking away the access. You're making the access now subject to a agreement.
Well, yeah, well, is it an easement that'll be recorded, I assume.
I'm
But
less.
our access is subject to an agreement.
But
Currently,
it does have access. It has access on Pine Street. It just doesn't have vehicular access.
Not vehicular, not vehicular.
You have to get that.
So does the easement come with the deed?
well, first of all, it says the lots shown on the plan must meet the minimum frontage requirements.
I don't see, I have more
And
problem with that.
These are ands. It doesn't, I mean, I understand why you want to do this. I think it makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it meets the requirements for an A&R. And
I think
so-
we should get an opinion.
yeah, so I think what we should do is ask the applicant for a letter indicating that you're willing to give us till the end of January, which means we would take it up at our next meeting. Otherwise, we have to act tonight, and that would probably not be in your favor, at least my vote, I can't speak for others. That we get council's advice on this. And then I think correct me if I'm wrong, but the process would actually be you have to go to the zoning board of appeals for a variance, I guess.
No, they just need to subdivide it then.
Yeah,
It's not an A&R, they just need a subdivision.
well, that's the other way to do it, is subdivision, which is,
It's no variance.
yeah. So we need a little advice from council, I think is
I appreciate the guidance. We're trying to avoid doing the most cost effective and,
understood.
CBA is a long process.
Yeah, or subdivision can take a while too, so, but I don't know, that's my read
Yeah, I
on
think
it.
that's the
as-
direction we should be heading.
So,
Get some advice,
if
some
you're-
professional advice.
yeah,
and then-
so-
and then we'll move forward next meeting.
So I guess I would make a motion in the event that we did not receive, because we don't have, or maybe you can just write out something.
Just ask him and
Yeah, just
he approve it for the minutes.
Yeah, can you, I just think it has to be written.
Just ask him to extend. Oh,
Doesn't it, does it have to be written?
Yeah, Gail, how do we stop the clock on this? Or
The applicant would have to request that you stop the clock. It's in the applicant's hands.
Okay, so verbally, if
so can you send us, do we need something in writing, or can you just verbally do that to Gail? Or we can write an email to Gail and,
Stating that,
you know.
you're extending the
extending
time frame until, I would say, the end of this
the
month.
problem with that is that we're making an assumption that email's gonna come and we're gonna keep going.
That's my
So
concern.
so-
If you just handwrite out something,
Just think we
That's
just
fine.
verbal.
it's fine.
The other thing he could do is withdraw without prejudice. And that way you make no decision and you start the clock again.
You start the
okay, that's fine.
Submit
So
it again
we'll
tomorrow.
revisit this your next meeting?
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna be away. Can I visit by Zoom?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have a withdrawal without prejudice form and I can get that to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Gail, I appreciate it.
The other thing is if we get council's input prior to the meeting, I think we could send it to him.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no. You probably have it in your archive, so, all right, thank you.
Okay, next up, A&R on 17 Bennett Street, Mr. Shaw.
And I think, any post, like background information you can provide us and dig up, that would be helpful. That might help.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see what, Hancock Associates has.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
That goes back. Oh, thank you. Welcome.
Would you mind gathering those plans and giving me them all back, please?
I'll put them downstairs at the mailbox.
Perfect, thank you, but everybody's, thanks.
Oh, everybody.
Well, so you have them for the next meeting.
Are you ready? Hello? Who's presenting these?
You ready?
Yes,
You ready for Bennett Street?
yes, Bennett Street. Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
I'm on Zoom, Alan Scharf. I'm at 19 Bennett Street. It's actually in Lee's name. There's a house that's being built on 17 Bennett. We access our property through a right of way through their property that's shown on the plan. What we're just trying to do is to right now there's land adjacent to our property, between our property and the drive, which typically we maintain. And on the other side of the drive doesn't quite follow the path that's shown on the drawing. And our new neighbor is planning to landscape. So this was all discovered while they were putting their new property together. And so what we wanted to do, they were going to convey the piece of property. It's on the plan called Parcel A, which is about 644 square feet to us for our, and then there's a little sliver on the other side. We were going to reduce the right of way on the other side about 121 square feet, so they can do the landscape and maintenance of that piece. I don't know if that made sense or you have any questions, but that's what our request is.
Um, Pretty straightforward to me. Any questions from the board? No questions? Any motion from the board?
So it's still a common driveway? Is that correct?
Yes, there will be a common driveway. And the driveway will pretty much remain exactly as is, except for the very top piece.
So you're gaining about, did you say 600 square feet?
650 minus 121.
Yeah, so it's a net 400.
Right, that would be the net.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the plan of land prepared for Alan C. Sharp, 19 Bennett Street, Manchester, Mass. Of 17 Bennett Street by Hancock Associates, dated
So
12/19/2023, as that we endorse the plan as approval not required.
where's the frontage?
So that's my motion.
Can we go back to the three things? I'm just saying, we.
Is it 17 or 19?
So the applicant is 19 and the
Property is
property is
17.
17.
So we put it on frontage. 78 on the 17.
To me, this is a little different because this is not taking away or changing the frontage, regardless of where their frontage is. You're not taking away or changing their access. You're just doing the right of way still remains. There's, as opposed to the other, which is we were actually removing the access off of. I mean, whether these parcels remain in the current ownership or in the future ownership, it doesn't change at all the access or. So I think it is different. Right, this is just a small sliver for a small sliver, or a smaller sliver. So.
Just number 2 is minimum frontage, which there is none. So I'm just not sure how we get past that.
This lot already exists.
We're being asked to change it, and the requirements are meets minimum frontage.
When was the lot, Alan, when was your lot created, and was it created with a subdivision plan or a, do you know? What its frontage is?
I do not. I
Is
mean,
it
it was
front on
back.
Forster?
Hmm?
Do you have a frontage on Forster Road, or where's your frontage?
We've never had any frontage. It was the plot was created, I want to say, back in the 40s, maybe the 50s.
It predates zoning.
And nothing has changed since then. It's been accessed by a right-of-way.
I feel like we've done this before where it's not creating a buildable lot. I'm trying to think of where we've done it.
This is not you're not attempting to create a buildable lot here.
No.
And the notes, I believe, say that parcel A and that they're not buildable lots. So,
I mean, obviously this would probably this type of thing, you know, there was no zoning back then, so. When? 1940?
right, it's in this case, we are not, the other case, we're taking away some portion of frontage. It's really different.
Right, this isn't dealing with frontage, it clearly doesn't have.
It's just a small land swap. I feel like it's, so I mean.
The redivision of the property.
I made a motion
So you were making the motion.
to approve this
approve
as
that.
a
Is there a second? on it?
endorse the one, yeah.
I'll second it.
Now, any discussion?
Doesn't meet the 3 requirements. I'm just not sure how we're making motions to approve something that doesn't have.
But I think that in this case, this is not, those lots are being. There's no change to either the frontage or it's not part of the rules. We've done this many, many times. I don't see it the same thing.
So what other way do people swap land if it's not an A&R?
Right, all the time.
Can you just do it?
Yeah, they don't need us to do an
I
A&R
don't
to
think
swap
it
land.
needs an A.
Let's go.
The A&R is the process you need to change the deed with the registry.
I'm just wondering if they could just, you know, I'm selling this piece of land, so they could just do it outside of the boards.
It wouldn't be accepted by the registry. No, I don't think so.
I think if it existed for zoning, that's a different situation.
Do we have a deed?
No, actually.
It says we have it. I don't see it. Well, at a minimum, I think we should ask for guidance again because it doesn't meet the 3. And if we've done it before, we at least need to have a reason why we're doing it. Because I think just because we've done it before isn't a very good answer.
Mr. Small, you have your hand up?
Yep, I'm back again. So Mr. Sharf's property, his lot was created in 1951, and we're not changing that other than we're making it bigger. It's the lot next door that we're actually dividing, and that never had legal frontage. And there's no way to really give it legal frontage unless it starts taking property from someone else. So all we're really doing is we're taking a small piece of the property at 19 and selling it to Mr. Sharp. He's still got the right area. He just doesn't have the frontage, but they never had the frontage. There's no way to give it the frontage. So I'm not sure. I mean, I do A&Rs all the time. You have to do it this process in order to make the sale legal. You can't convey property without going through planning board in this method. So I don't think there's a way to do it any other way.
So Ron, are you going to reach out to town council for the previous one? Can you just ask him and for going forward, what we need to include for the language, why we're not going to use number 2 in the criteria checklist?
To Paul or to the
Town
town
council.
council? Because I'd be curious what the building inspector, how he's looking at it.
I guess both of them. But I mean, I think we need something in our file to say this is why we're hanging our hat on you don't need frontage.
You didn't get that from the buildings. Go ahead.
So I'm just looking at this A&R handbook. Suggests that the intent is to recognize that ways already in use at the time of the subdivision control law, which in this case would be the shared driveway, became effective provided such ways offer adequate access and not create a mechanism to circumvent the subdivision removal process for ways newly constructed. So like paper streets. I think this is the existence of the way and the adequacy of the way are not synonymous, but if the adequacy of the way is sufficient, then it is an affirmative I don't want to use the word way determination. So in this case, the adequacy of the shared driveway is not changing, which is the access question. And this didn't have frontage. To me, it's entirely different than the prior one. I don't disagree with you that we can get, but we have done this 100 times.
Yeah, but I think they've had frontage, but okay.
But it doesn't change the.
I know it'd be great if we just had that
So language on not using number 2 on the checklist.
It's
what I
frontage. How we can approve, just a letter from him saying that we can, just so we have it in our file. So if anyone comes back and asks us why we approve this without frontage, this is what town council told us, we'll just put it in there with the file.
Schaefer, you're willing to withdraw without prejudice and come back next meeting?
Doesn't sound like I have any other,
Well, unless the board wants to move forward with it. What's the pleasure of the board?
I heard a motion and a second already. I don't know.
We're under discussion, so what you want, let's vote on the motion to approve. Sarah, your motion again was to
Approve this tonight.
Okay. Mr. Lucio,
I'm not comfortable with this right now.
would you like?
I'm not comfortable.
No. Ms. Foley?
Is this a vote to approve or not approve?
No, it's a vote to approve. It's not a vote to
Oh, I
not
thought,
approve. Because that would be, because the failure of this could mean we push it off, I think, right?
I would like to put some, as we've done in the past, statements. Like we say, the above, I'm looking right here, the above endorsement is not a determination of conformance with zoning regulations.
It's on their plan already.
It's on their plan?
Yeah.
But that would be on our approval.
Is it?
So would you?
Your approval is the signature of the plan. There's no written decision for an A&R. When Ron signs the plan, that's the approval.
How did we do it before, Ron? We would always add things.
We can't put a condition on it. I thought we've done conditions.
You have to have a plan and drawn, printed the plan.
They put the conditions on.
But it says they're not considered, parcel A is not considered a legal binding lot by itself. It's currently owned by the Hines to be conveyed to Lee T. Sharp to be combined with the abutting land of the same to form one contiguous lot.
Kind of covered there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the three things are the above endorsement is not a determination of conformance with zoning regulations. 2, no determination of compliance with zoning requirements has been made or intended. And 3, planning board endorsement under the subdivision control law should not be construed as either an endorsement or an approval of zoning lot area requirements.
Where are you reading that from?
From the A&R handbook.
So the plan says, the planning board endorsement does not certify compliance with zoning bylaw.
On the bottom,
Right under our signature.
under date.
It's cut off. Says it.
Yes.
Bottom of the signature.
Yes.
I say yes.
Gilbert
Yes.
is,
Yes.
Yes.
is Tenny.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay. Approved.
Hey, thank you very much for your time, consideration.
We'll sign it and put it in
Put downstairs.
down.
Yeah, Alan, come in tomorrow and I'll have it for you.
Okay. What time do you open?
I'm not in town hall until 9:30.
9:30. Okay.
Do you need to be there sooner?
I can get there around 9:30.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so last time we met, we talked about final rules and regulations and a final application form for driveway openings. Sarah, gave us some final, Laura and Sarah went and gave us some final language on Thursday or Friday,
No, it was actually the weekend.
over the weekend, so, I don't know if anyone's had time to go over them, or, we want to go over them now, are they, and, then, of course, Mary and I were gonna get together and redo the form based on.
So just to clarify, there are two versions in the packet. One is the one with track changes from, sort of took the changes from the second read. And then I made a clean accepted changes, deleted the comments, and made a PDF. I didn't make any edits at all to that. All I did was accept the changes so that if there's spacing changes or anything, I didn't touch it at all, just to be careful. So I would suggest that you look at the one that says driveways with changes accepted. It's easier to read, and
That's
it's
the PDF.
now quite short. So,
So do we want to discuss tonight, or do we want to have, go over that, the next meeting? Are we prepared to discuss tonight?
I have some comments.
Yeah.
So we're prepared to discuss tonight?
I don't know if everybody is,
Be great.
I didn't look at them, but
I didn't look at it.
So why don't we get Mary's comments, and if there are any other comments, maybe we can just finalize it at the next meeting,
okay.
or anybody else's comments.
Totally.
So my first comment is going back to the general bylaw. The general bylaw has all new and relocated driveway entrances for all land uses shall require a permit. This is just addressing residential. Are we doing residential and commercial separate? I know we went round and round talking about that before, but clearly in the bylaw, it's for all land uses, yet we're only addressing one.
I think it says applicability is in line 11, existing and new residential and commercial development.
Let me get, I thought you,
I'm looking at the one with everything. Accepted.
But then further down, in like 5.5B, residential lots. So, all right, so we're saying for commercial and residential, it's one curb cut. I just want to be clear, because I'll go through it again, but I thought we were mixing. I thought in many places we just say residential.
You can try to align it with a general, but let's look.
So that might just be my non-clarity, but as long as we're saying that, that's fine.
Ron, may I make a comment?
Yes.
To answer Mary's questions?
Laura.
No, it's Laura. Sorry, I'm just trying to answer Mary's question. And I don't have the document in front of me. Did the title say something about residential driveway entrances only? I remember we struck institutional, and I just can't remember if the title said what types it applied to. If anybody has
regulations for driveway entrances.
Okay, so it doesn't say anything one way or the other.
So I just didn't know why
Okay.
in 5B clarifies residential lots shall be limited to a single curb cut.
I'm looking in the general bylaws.
Where the general bylaw says a single. So
We just strike, I think that's a good point. We can strike
just strike
residential in that line 54.
Ron and Sarah, may I respond to that? Sorry, I'm on Zoom, so it's a little choppy.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to Mary's question I'm wondering if there may be instances when commercial uses require more than one entry, but that might be covered by the site plan for 5 or more spaces. So maybe this is for everything else.
Well, my impression is the general bylaw says that DPW is doing driveway entrances. I guess if they need to, they come to the planning board and stuff, yeah.
So the general bylaw, I correct this, does say there shall be not more than 1 apron and curb cut per residential lot. So the
That's what I
single
thought. Yeah.
cut is only for residential in the general bylaws, and we have to make them align. So I think we don't make that change, and we leave it silent on commercial. The general bylaw is silent on commercial.
So what is commercial?
Don't have any.
I think we need to.
I think we have to change the general bylaw.
Well, for now, I think we should go silent. You want a wider driveway for commercial?
Yeah. I think that's Laura.
Laura.
I just think so. Currently, it's a loophole that we have no requirements for commercial.
I don't think that's true. All
Will be site plan review.
they require a permit issued by the DPW and or a site plan review. So they still require review. They just don't have the condition of a single. They don't have the restriction for one only.
But the regulations is that the DPW goes by the regulations that the planning board has created. And if they don't have any regulations, what are they going by?
I think they're going by the purpose of the bylaw is to promote pedestrian safety, potential traffic conflicts, control flow of water onto public.
So why can't we just keep these for both?
Pardon me?
Why can't we just make them for both?
Seems to me there would be many instances where a commercial property would need more than one.
So they come to the planning board for a
So
permit?
they would need a site plan approval.
Yeah, so they're gonna come here anyway, so just keep it for both.
If they're 5 or more, a business that has a need for 5 or more cars wouldn't make that a requirement for more than one driveway. Less than 5 cars, I don't think that there's no way.
But if they want 2, they're gonna have to come to the planning board anyway.
All right.
All right, so, all right.
So if we add commercial, it's a few spots now that we need to add in.
So
We'll have to change the general bylaw.
What does the general bylaw say?
residential lots should be limited to a single driveway entrance, but it's silent about commercial.
Say commercials have to comply with the residential. We have to change the bylaw.
Well, we did talk about having to change the bylaw because it says, and 5 feet from side lot lines, trees, utility poles, or street light fixtures, period, right? So we were gonna add in, which we do in the regulations, but they're not enforceable if it's not in the bylaw, we added in or anything like that, or however it's worded. Right, so we should have been more open-ended on those things than listing out 3 things for us.
Seems to me we should make the regulations dovetail with the general bylaw. And then as we make changes to the general bylaw, and yes, it's silent on commercial, but we had, the whole point here was to allow the professional engineers to use their good judgment on the intent and refer things to us if they have site plan review, which most commercial uses probably do.
We'll probably get them anyway.
Yeah, so. So I would suggest that we leave line 54 as written.
And consider it.
And
bylaw change.
yeah, I mean, if we want to do a bylaw change, we should, April's coming quick. Quickly make.
So I guess along those lines, then on line 17, I would take out in the regulations or change in grade, because that is not in the bylaw. I agree with change in grade, but it's not in the bylaw.
We don't even have a definition for a driveway in the bylaw.
What line is it? 17?
17.
16 in line, changing
Oh.
existing driveway.
I'm going off an old version. I couldn't print out the new one.
We have to do with drainage.
I would suggest we leave.
I mean, I
Sarah, may I?
completely agree with it. It's just not in the bylaw.
Does it have to be in the bylaw?
Well, it does in that it says an altered driveway entrance. So now we're just further defining altered driveway. The general bylaw says prior to any building permit requiring a new or altered driveway. So I would say that the proposed regulations simply kind of add some definition to altered to include that which has grade, and that's going to affect water running onto the street. So.
But we're not doing driveways, we're doing curb cuts. Driveway entrances.
But the bylaw says new or altered driveway entrance, so is that what it says?
Right, but line 17 says, or change in grade of existing driveway.
Oh, may we enter existing driveway entrance?
May I respond?
Yeah.
This is Laura. Hi, Mary and Sarah. The grade is referring to the grade of the driveway entrance, not the grading of the driveway outside of the driveway entrance. So
add
it's really
entrance.
tailored to just be, if you need to, add entrance, but we did a careful read of it. We were trying to be in compliance with what Chuck felt he needed, and we're consistent with the bylaw.
Okay, so we would
If you need
add to line
entrance there,
16.
you can. I think it was referring to entrance.
So line 16 would now read a proposed new driveway. The applicability would be a proposed new driveway entrance or proposed relocation or change in grade of existing driveway entrance shall require the filing of an application.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So then on line 91 in my version, I don't know what it is in new, which is grade. It says the design of the curb cut and driveway shall remain, so it should be driveway entrance.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would love for it to be driveway, but it's not in the bylaws.
Wait, where is that, Mary?
82.
Oh, 182.
What section?
F.
Oh, I define the driveway and driveway.
5F.
It's line 82.
But the hope is that an engineer can go out and say, hey, listen, you have a slope here, but also gonna drive all this water onto the street so that, you know.
I think that one can stay, the grade of each driveway where it intersects a public way, because that is essentially with the entrance. I think the intersection of the driveway and the public way is the entrance. So I think that one can stay the way it is.
The design of the curb cut and driveway shall drain away.
No, it says the design of the driveway entrance and driveway shall drain water away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the grade for each driveway where it intersects. You're looking at the track changes.
It's just driveway, the driveway entrance and the
But
driveway.
it says where it intersects with the public way.
No, it doesn't.
It
No, I'm
does.
looking.
The first sentence does not read that way.
So 5F, right? The design of the driveway entrance and driveway shall drain water away from the street.
By use of drains, gutters, or swales.
Yeah.
Period.
So we want.
It is what we want, but again, it doesn't
I think
dovetail to the general bylaw. So now we're bringing in a driveway here, which again, I wholeheartedly agree with, but we can't enforce that by the bylaw.
So you're saying strike and driveway in that? I think that's fine.
Unfortunately.
Right.
Then I had a question on G with the use of pervious materials encouraged. If the material is contained within the driveway and will not spill onto the roadway. So there's a lot of instances where we do have driveways where all those small pebbles do spill into the roadway. Is this enforceable or is this just a nice to have? Like, how would you enforce, like, the spilling into the roadway?
Well, it's designed, so maybe you have an impervious, a pervious driveway with a small apron that's paved, for example, to try to separate. So I don't know, I think it's a case by case situation that the DPW assesses, or the slope is away from the road. That's another way that it would.
Well, it's encouraged.
Right, so.
It's not required.
Okay. On 6.0A, the second sentence, I think just needs, if the application and proposed driveway entrance, the word driveway just needs to be added. So this is just I guess I don't understand the question. 6C says that the DPW can put conditions on a permit. And last time the discussion was these driveways, since they're in the general bylaw, are really by right. And I just have never seen how do you put conditions on a by right thing? Can you do that?
I don't think they are by right. We're saying we have to have a permit. We're saying driveway entrances have to have a permit. That's what the general bylaw says.
Okay, because last time the argument was that they're really by right, and that's so
It can be both. As long as you meet the conditions, you get the permit.
Right, exactly.
That's by right.
Yeah.
You still need a permit.
but can you put conditions on things that aren't in the bylaw? That's just my question. I don't know.
So your point is, if it's by right, how can we put conditions? If you're meeting all the conditions, you shouldn't be putting conditions on it. If they're conditions.
Because it's not a special permit, it's a permit. So if it's not a special permit and we lay out the conditions in a bylaw and they
Meet the conditions.
meet all of these, how can the DPW put conditions?
More conditions.
If it's not a
Well,
special
maybe
permit?
one condition would be, for example, during construction, the such and such would happen, but at the end, once construction is completed, the following things need to happen. I mean, that could be conditions might be during construction, as an example. That will grant you the driveway opening for during construction, but then at the end of construction, when you go to finish it, here's how it has to be.
So it's just conditions on the process, not the actual.
It's just, I'm giving you an example of one type. I think we want the DPW to be able to give reasonable direction, like in order to improve the sightline, you need to take down that tree, or those kinds of things that are reasonable and not require a site plan review for one tree that has to come down or something.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I just am not wrapping my mind around that we pass to the DPW, here's the bylaw, and then now they can put conditions on it and it not become a special permit situation. So I just don't know if a special permit, a permit with conditions could circumvent a planning board special permit. Right?
I don't understand this. So a building inspector grants a permit for you to build a house, and they'll put a lot of conditions on it.
Right.
That's the same thing. You can do it by right, but there are conditions.
Yeah,
You
but
meet
that,
the conditions and you build it.
but those are different regulations. We don't have a bylaw for that. We don't have a general bylaw.
Yeah, we do. We just created one.
Building inspector doesn't have just one.
Building inspector doesn't have a bylaw.
That was an example.
Oh. No, I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
So Mary, what would you suggest?
I have no
Service
idea.
6C.
I'm just trying to understand 6C.
Do we qualify? Because what about pre-post and I don't know, conditions, like site conditions? I don't know.
Well, another example of a condition might be, this driveway entrance can be here, but when you plow snow, you cannot plow snow straight out of the driveway into the neighbors. That could be another condition that, I don't know, I'm just trying to give you examples of I would think that some of them might be operating conditions, sort of your.
So I think we just need to put guardrails.
Sarah, can I take a gander at this? This is Laura.
Yes.
When we had Chuck Dam and Nate on the phone and we were reviewing this and we asked them to read it, what Chuck talked about was sometimes, they go out there multiple times and they do a site view and they might ask for certain conditions, say they need a winter moratorium. It might be you can't build it until April. Or say they're looking at the sketch, which shows the flare and where the grades are and so forth. And so within those guidelines, he might put some conditions on, how the flare is dimensionally required to be based on some sight line or, some intersection nearby. So it's basically if there's a site condition or a weather condition and the DPW wants to say, overall, your driveway looks fine. These are some conditions that you have to meet in constructing your driveway, either in design or in the construction of the driveway. They can put those conditions on based on their engineering review. I think that was really the extent of it. They're not making exceptions or anything like that. They're just saying, in our judgment as engineers, here are some conditions that are requirements being met as part of the permit application. But
So
they can't grant, a second entrance or anything like that.
Okay, so it's with or without conditions that don't, it sounds like what you're saying, Laura, it's conditions that don't conflict with what's in the bylaw, right? So maybe if we just add that.
Right,
so
they wouldn't result in sorry, Mary, go ahead. I'll answer when you're done.
So I would say with or without conditions that don't conflict with the regulations in the bylaw.
And I think that's understood always with conditions, because we wouldn't allow a condition that would result in a variance or something like that. So I don't think we need to say anything more about what those conditions are, but the DPW has some leeway within the bylaw to impose conditions required for a safe access and, correct drainage.
I don't agree with it, but that's, I guess, neither here nor there.
If you read it in conjunction with B above, I think it helps. DPW determines if the driveway entrance approval can be issued by the DPW or if special conditions exist. Driveway entrances that do not comply with the criteria contained herein, or in the opinion of the DPW should require a special review, will be permitted by a special permit granted by the planning board. So that's the first thing. It has to comply. And then the second one is approve with or without conditions. So I think when you read the two together, it, I think, satisfies Mary's concern.
For me, it doesn't, but I'm in the minority, so, I guess my last comment will be in, 6D. The last sentence says, completed work must be inspected by the DPW to assure compliance, and I think it's ensure.
Yep. Okay.
That's it.
So I thought we were gonna have somewhere that they're gonna post. We talked about where they're gonna post these.
I think we went around in circles on that, and I think the resolution on that was that sort of a administrative
Yes.
courtesy that the town may decide to do, but we're gonna put it in the regulations.
Well, it's a procedural thing because people need to, this isn't like E isn't finished with the appeal, like. This assumes that you are the person that did not get the permit. Right? There could be other people.
Like who?
Abutters. We've taken that notice away. So how do abutters know?
Why should they know?
Well, they want, if they have a problem with it, they should know.
Yeah, I think we need to get with Greg on that, on how the town post this stuff.
Well, I think there are two issues. I think the posting it and knowing what your neighbor is doing is a courtesy that may or may not.
Building permits have to be posted.
The second thing is, I think your other question is appeals, and I think that we were advised that appeals go to court.
Court, right.
An appeal of a special permit would go to the ZBA. An appeal of the DPW would go to court.
It's a general bylaw.
As a general bylaw, and I think that's the case and the way it's written right now, whether we like it or not.
No, completely agree, but you still have to be able to figure out that you don't agree with what the decision was. It has to be public information somewhere. So building permits, same thing, you can appeal them, but they're publicly notified. You can find them on our website. You can't expect people to find them if they don't exist on our website. So we need some kind of a procedure to say where we're gonna post this.
And isn't there like a 30-day period?
I don't know.
What is the period?
Can we ask town council this question? Because I think we went around on this last time, and Greg said that they could do it, but that he advised not putting it in the regulations. So,
well,
why don't we ask town council about
Figure it
that?
out, because we don't have the answer.
So can I just clarify the town council question, which is, can we require, can and should we require public posting of permits? And then the other one is
Curb opening permit.
yeah, permits, driveway entrance permits. And the second is, what is the appeal period, appeal process and period of an aggrieved party, right?
I don't think that, I mean, it's just, you have to know about it to be aggrieved, right? So how do you know about it? How do you find out?
Right, so I have three, I only have four changes, actually. I'll make those, yeah, we'll make those changes. Yeah, I'll get those out. Maybe we can do a final read.
I was gonna say, I didn't have a chance to really look at it, so I think we should still get this back on.
You gotta figure out the form.
Yep.
We didn't have, we can agree on the substance with the form.
Right.
Okay.
I'll get that done.
All right, thanks.
So can I just clarify one thing on that? We agreed that we're gonna do one form for DPW and.
So I don't think you have anything on special permits. I can review the hiring consultant.
Not yet.
Okay, MBTA communities. You're up.
You want me to talk?
Well, I can do a little bit.
You sure? Okay.
And I apologize for my hoarseness, but it's not cool.
I've seen worse.
I'm better than I was. So a couple of things have happened. One is we had a density walk in the downtown on Saturday, which was very well attended and had some positive reviews from people. The second thing is that we've established a series of hiding principles for the town to think about as we create these districts. Because the creation of a district is going to have impacts that we're going to try to predict as best we can. And the guiding principles will help us create the districts and the regulations for the districts that will best serve the town's needs. So the guiding principles are posted on the website.
They are there, I just checked, yeah.
And they're not set in stone, if people would like to make changes to them, that's something we can certainly discuss. And the third thing is that we're now at the point where we think it's time to start engaging the planning board and seeking planning board input as we start creating these districts. One of the things we have learned over the past several months is that we're very used to dealing with zoning, and most people are not, and they still don't understand what zoning is and what it does and what the various districts do.
They have no idea what district they're even in until they have to file something and write the district on. And they have no idea what rules apply to which district. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay, that's right. Jump in any time. So one of the things we thought might be a useful project that we could engage in together is to create a community forum, much like we did when we first started talking about recodifying the zoning, to engage the public, maybe on a Saturday morning or something at the high school, engage the public in a discussion about zoning and to have different stations set up for different zoning districts so people could figure out what zone they're in and then learn what the regulations are.
What the rules are today.
What they are today, yeah. And perhaps what they could be in the future, so people understand what we're talking about. We're talking about setbacks and parking requirements and height restrictions. So I'm throwing that out there and asking how the board feels about this idea.
What we would really like is to do that kind of forum together, you know, with a planning board member and a task force member or more at each district station. So it'd be a joint thing, you know, not a task force thing, not a planning board thing. But since zoning is the planning board's purview and, you know, any regulation change, any zoning board, any zoning bylaw change has to pass the planning board first. So we were hoping that we could do it together. Just wondered what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great service to people because then they understand, hopefully those that come understand how to find out what zoning district they're in, how to maybe understand that zoning exists and that what it says, how it will help them understand what we do or some of what we do and the challenges that. And so I think it's great. And then it also kind of is a sort of a level setting.
Yeah, exactly.
So, any other comments?
So I'll comment on that. I think it's a good idea. I think it's important for the planning board to get the same data that the task force is getting from the consultant, because I think we would be going in a little blind. You guys have some data that she's given you already, potential overlays or whatever it is. And so I think the sharing of data is important.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, good point.
Haven't,
So before we have that, yeah.
So we can zone in on those districts and know exactly what is being comprehended, but also what is in existence now. Yeah, so that would be my comment.
So the public is just gonna be seeing what the zoning districts are, or also the proposed overlays?
I don't think we'll be ready for
No.
overlays.
So
No.
it's just a thing on zoning districts?
That's right. What is zoning, what is it doing?
Nothing really with the mandatory.
Well, we could explain, this is what the law says. If the law were to be applied to your district, this would change. You know, this would not change. Just keep it really simple facts.
Okay, wait, that change, you just changed what you proposed. I thought you wanted the planning board and the task force to get together to educate residents strictly on current zoning.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So where's
But
the
that's
law?
but to me, that's an obvious, people will ask. So this law, if you apply this law to my street, you know, what are the requirements of the law? How are the requirements of the law different from what it is today?
Well, it's kind of a one size fits all. I mean, obviously, so if the residents understand what district they're in and what the district current requirements are, the law is a broad sweep, you know, 15 units per acre. I mean, it's going to be different in this district versus this district.
Actually, it can be, that's what
Well, it can be, but it's not, if we're just doing a one size fits all, if we apply the law. It's all inclusive, right? It's not,
no, actually, the law says all kinds of things, which is what we're learning.
right, but we don't have any data to extrapolate that out.
So while we're doing this with the public, we're also going to be engaging with the planning board about what these districts might look like and where they might be. So for example, we're pretty much all agreed that we think these should be overlay districts, not rezoning the general district in some way. And there can be districts as small as 5 acres, as long as half of what we're doing is in one big district. One of the districts we think is very interesting and we want to sort of focus on might be, for example, Elm Street and Powder House Lane and Morse Court and the Lower Pine Street, because that already has quite a bit of density. And in fact, Powder House Lane, for example, already complies with the MBTA district. So that might be a good place to focus with small district. Another might be 12 Summer Street and parts of the downtown, not all the downtown, that fit with it, that could accommodate that kind of density.
I have a question.
I guess I'm just not as clear now from what you said at the beginning.
This will not be presented at the forum.
Yeah.
Would we show what the half mile within the station is?
Oh, of course,
Would we
yeah.
have that?
Oh, yeah,
We can do that. I mean, as we want to work together with you to
Somebody
design.
might, I mean, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
think these kind of questions would be asked.
Yeah, and they usually
It's
are.
gonna morph into more than just zoning, I can tell you right now. I
Well,
think.
maybe so. So we'll have to deal with that.
I might take back that I think it's good. I think it's too many unknowns and it's making it seem like the planning board is presenting something to the residents that we don't have yet. So
I mean, we don't have yet either.
I think if we're doing strictly, you know, our current zoning districts 101, I think that's a good idea so that people can understand the starting point. But if we start getting into this could happen or that could happen, or it could be 4 stories here and 3 stories there. And, you know, I'm not comfortable with that because that's complete unknowns.
Could you just do a video? So that way everyone's getting the same information?
No, I mean,
Fine.
I don't mean to shut that idea down
You
so
would
quickly.
Put that out, you would send it to everyone would reach it.
I think a video is a good idea, but I don't think that's the only thing
Yeah.
we should do.
I'm just saying to keep the narrative all the same and the same answers. I think the concern is we don't have information, so we're just saying we don't have information. So instead of showing up saying, hey, what the questions people really want to ask if they're coming to this meeting, we don't have yet. So a short information video saying this is what we want you to understand first, step A, before you can understand step B. Come back to us in 60 days and we'll be able to talk about it. And here's your primer. I don't know. My other question, like, I don't want to forget. So when you're talking to the consultant, I have tried to listen to as many meetings. What is the argument for not spot zoning to take those? What is the argument that this isn't spot zoning versus the overlay district? Have you heard like an answer to that question?
I'm not sure I understand the
Yeah, I'm
question.
not sure I understand either. You just,
You mean if you just have districts that are not contiguous, how is that? Or how big does something have to be before it's?
What are the parameters to distinguish something between spot zoning and an overlay district?
So an overlay district preserves the existing zoning, but then says, for this new use, this multifamily use, there's a whole new set of rules. It's
So
allowed
that whole
by
new
right.
set of rules thing to me is where I say, okay, that's spot zoning. So that's where I would just like to
That's
see.
not spot zoning, no. Spot zoning is when you zone one particular parcel of land for some specified use. That's spot zoning.
I think I don't know if you're referring to this, but I had heard that there would potentially be 4 stories allowed in some places and not in other places, meaning like if you couldn't see it from the street, it could be 4 stories. That to me seems spot zoning.
No, that's not spot zoning.
Design criteria.
But, who knows if it's a good idea? We don't know yet, but it's an idea tossed out, sure. No, but spot zoning is particular to a particular parcel of land. So the mayor's brother.
exactly.
Well, it doesn't have to be just one parcel. It could be a handful, but.
No, it's one parcel, that's the definition.
So just to close that out, I think that the MBTA zoning task force is not looking at a single parcel as the subject of an overlay district, but collections of parcels.
There are rules that have to be a minimum of 5 acres.
So if we're talking just on where zoning, what zoning you're in, you wanted to have the task force and the planning board at this forum?
We want to start working together with
Right.
So would maybe for this one voice, I like that idea, maybe the task force should meet with us ahead of time of the
Let's start
forum.
more than one meeting.
Kind of to discuss, you know, how this is gonna go and how far the narrative is going to go.
We had to go through a learning process to understand what the heck we're talking about. And we're not there yet, but we're getting close enough that we can now explain and to the board, more importantly, what exactly it is that we have to do.
So in terms of scheduling, this is a February thing, maybe?
Yeah, February.
Before February break. That's 4 weeks from now.
Before February break, if we can do it, yeah.
So have the forum and the meeting with the task force all in
That would
February.
probably take several meetings, and maybe it'll be a subcommittee of the planning board. Task force.
Okay. All right.
Maybe we say we have our meetings before February break and the forum after. I know we wanted to have it really soon, but as we're talking about the process of us working together, it seems like for the forum to take place before February break.
And then there's some work to do, storyboards.
Tiffany has a lot of that already. Tiffany, yeah.
Why don't we carve out some time at our next meeting and maybe if there's a straw, if Tiffany has, you know, start at 6 or something, I don't know, where if she's got some materials sort of envisioned of, you know, that's where, what is zoning, how do I find out where my house is or a property, it doesn't have to be your house, right? How do you could, maybe we can even have like a computer where you can go to the assessor, you know, with a big screen.
Yeah, sure.
So you could type in your property and you
Yeah.
can pull up the
We could all
property
sit there
card.
with a little, what's your address?
Right, and you could pull it up on a screen and say, this is public information, this says you're in District D.
Sure.
And then you have another set of boards or the zoning bylaw printed out and you say, well, here, you know, here's the rules for what you can do, you know, have our use table, we actually have it printed out there.
So that, the use table, people plays over it. So we have to just really say this many feet high that we just,
First,
but
allowed uses, here's where you find your allowed use, you know, it's like.
I would skip that, but we can.
Yeah, we can think about it. So that's why you kind of have to do a mock, a dry run with, to sort of.
Didn't we do something like this for the zoning?
Yeah, we did.
And we had storyboards already.
Yeah, we do have those storyboards.
Resurrect some of them.
Tiffany's are much prettier.
So, okay.
So what's the end goal in it of just educating the residents on?
Because they're gonna have to vote eventually at town meeting. So in order to have them understand what they're voting on, they need to understand, you know, where they live, I mean, they know where they live, obviously. They should understand.
I'm not sure. Mine's dark. We're all in the dark right now.
The district, the zoning district where they live and what the rules are there. I mean, they're gonna be most people are most interested in their own plot of land, and people don't know the rules that apply today. And also, okay, that's your district over there in the general district, these are the rules today.
And I get it and I agree, I just don't understand, so, but they're not voting on the rules today. They're gonna be voting on something that's gonna change their rules today.
Right.
So this is just okay, we want you to first understand
the rules today, which
Okay.
people don't.
Well, I know.
And so then they go to town meeting and they're trying to vote based on what they saw at social media or some handout and you know, we're just trying to educate.
I think people are interested in the rules that apply to their neighborhood. But I think they also are interested particularly in the look and feel of downtown.
Right, absolutely.
And I think people are particularly naive about what could be built today in downtown. To me, that is where this process has exposed extreme vulnerability.
Yes. Sure.
And that people, you know, I said to Chris the other day, if the MBTA zoning thing, nothing happens, we still, I think, know that we've got to do some serious work on zoning in our downtown, however you define that, or to, you know, the vulnerability of downtown has been exposed, at least in my mind. So.
So is that clear or not?
I think it's clear, but I think we can't, it's gotta also be clear that we can't engage in conversation that people are gonna start asking about the MBTA zoning and the what ifs, right? Because you might give an answer, I might give a different answer, somebody else is gonna give a different answer, and then it's gonna create chaos.
Well,
and if we don't know anything, I mean, we know what the.
So one of the things I've learned in the past couple of weeks is it's perfectly acceptable to say, we don't know yet. That's a good question. We don't know yet.
But
At
you,
least you're being honest.
right.
And maybe by then we'll know more and we can speak a little bit more.
So how are you looking for the calendar? So what, it looks like we're supposed to have tentative overlays like a couple weeks ago.
So it's taking much longer than we thought. We hoped to do this for springtime meeting. It's not gonna
Yeah, no way.
happen. It couldn't happen anyway because there's too much on the agenda. So it's gonna have to be a special town meeting, probably, I don't know when, maybe early fall, during the summer, I don't know. We'll have to just get our way there. The one thing we don't wanna do is try to rush it through and make a hash of it, and then doesn't work. We don't do it right, so.
What's the time frame before? I was trying to find this earlier today. Isn't there like 60 days that the state has to have it beforehand? Is it 60 days?
I don't know the exact number of days.
They are pretty, I'm not gonna say flexible, it's probably not the right word, but if we are in good faith moving forward, you know, and those deadlines are coming up, we'll say, here's where we are, and we'll still be on track. I mean, they're not gonna say, oh, you missed your cutoff, sorry, you can't present that at your next town meeting, and then you're not in compliance as of December 31st. It's not gonna
That
happen.
really wasn't my question. My question was, I thought they needed a certain amount of time before town meeting to turn it around to make sure that
They do,
what we were presenting was.
that's right, they do. Because they don't want us presenting things to town meeting that are blatantly not in compliance.
So you all are factoring that.
We're trying to be out.
So along those lines, I would say the planning board needs to establish with the task force that, and I'm just throwing it out, that we need the task force write up proposals, the pros and cons, all that stuff, like 3 months before it has to go to the state, or
That's probably not gonna
2
happen.
months, or whatever it is.
3 months isn't gonna happen.
Because the planning board needs to discuss it amongst ourselves, and then we need to have public forums, and we need to have, you know, at least a few, I would assume, public forums on it. So
You need to have public hearings.
I mean,
Yeah,
public
public
hearings, I'm
hearings.
sorry. So knowing the calendar, I mean, I think 3 months might be cutting it short, but
Or we could meet more than once every 2 weeks.
yeah. Yeah,
which-
but
Which might help.
it's not even so much how many times we meet, it's how many hearings we can get. Because I'm sure it's not just one, so. I'm just saying that we need
A schedule.
a schedule.
Yeah,
We're waiting on it.
Well, no, I
No,
think we need to,
no.
as the planning board, we need to dictate the schedule to the task force to say,
Well-
we need X amount of time for review and meetings and hearings.
I think it's a legitimate request, and I think you should do it, yeah.
Well, when as we get a little closer, it seems to me incumbent upon us to go
Stay
to task
abreast.
force
Yes.
meetings and stay abreast of that. I think to do it, to have a duplicative process that's the task force does their work and then has a series of hearings and public meetings, and then the planning board does it over. It seems to me that once we get a little closer, we're gonna have to meet concurrently on this topic. We'll have other business that we've got to do, but we're gonna have to meet concurrently. The public is not going to want to come to a task force meeting and say their bit and then repeat it again for the planning board. It seems to me that we'll have to work closely and cooperatively
The
toward.
task force,
And you guys do
the
tune into the meetings.
task force doesn't have hearings, but it's the planning board.
Right, but they will be held jointly with the task force. I mean, it seems to me that we'll figure, it's a solvable problem that if we take the approach that we work together to get it to move forward, we can make it happen. Obviously, time is needed. There are certain deadlines and all of that, but I think when we get a little bit more specific, and the task force is closer to having specific proposals that need to be heard and that we should meet jointly and hear them concurrently, right, so that we're not repeating things.
No, I agree.
So,
And I would recommend that in order to get educated on it more than just attending the meetings, you start looking at the state compliance model, which is on the website and, you know, the state's website. You know, some of the information regarding the regulations and how they're applied. I mean, that will help a lot when you have to.
And yes, I've seen all that. I guess I would request that the task force post your materials before the meeting. You discuss a lot of materials, but nobody that's listening in knows what you're talking about. And I think if you start passing along the things you've gotten from the consultant to the planning board, then we can be kept appraised of what is going on as well. I know there was a meeting with the consultant, and if you were on Zoom, all you saw was the back of her and everybody huddled over and you couldn't hear anything. So that wasn't very informative, but so we don't, if you're listening in, you don't know, we don't know what you're talking about. Basically is the.
So how, I'm sorry.
How long is the consultant on for?
Till she's
So the
done.
money runs out.
Do you guys have town emails, everyone on the task force?
No.
So how do you compile your data? Does like Gail have like a
We're
SharePoint?
posting everything on the website. It's all there.
The MBTA website.
Okay, but you have information from Emily that is not posted on the website.
We've gotten a couple of emails from her that we have not posted yet. That's right. But Thursday is when she's really coming to present it.
So perhaps there could be a SharePoint folder that you guys could just dump whatever you have.
But we don't have access to
We
share.
don't have access because we have the at-large members and they.
All right, I'm just talking, and my question was, the information that you've received so far that isn't public information should be planning board information at a minimum. So my question is, things that you're not posting on the website yet that might not be there, we should, as planning board members, be receiving this information also. It's nothing to do with the task force.
We could set up a subdirectory in our SharePoint.
Correct.
And dump it, data dump.
does that make sense? I mean, it's certainly it's public information, but I'm not paying as much attention as maybe all the rest of you are. So if I think there's a real danger of, at this point, or I would just ask that it be not taken out of context. I mean, I'm not saying that.
I don't know how we prevent that. It's
what?
already happening. I mean, it's really hard to prevent that.
So, I guess I'd ask that we not take things out of context. Let the task force do its job, participate in the task force or trust them. And, I don't know. I mean, for sure, everything is public information, so that's fine. But
so if you don't want it, you don't have to look at it, but I think there should be a folder with the information that, I mean, we are the ultimate board that is going to be presenting this, so I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't be given the information at the same time.
I guess what Sarah's talking about, what we don't want to have happen is, you know, the social media, like little, I won't call it spot zoning, but like take this out of context and throw that up and with this and that. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of the Instagram accounts and we
So
don't
I
want
guess we
that
can
stuff
just
happening.
end this. I can just say, send me what you have. I mean, I don't understand like.
Everything I have is on the website right now. So it's available to everybody, and that's the way we operate. We don't, we're just out there as transparent as we can be.
But I think you did say you got some, at least you had some printouts at the meeting from the consultant that had some overlay districts, and you started to briefly discuss it. And I think I just get confused because this conversation started out saying we want to work more closely with the planning board, and then the planning board is saying, can we get some information? And you're saying, no, we can't. So I don't know where the line is.
I don't know what information we're trying to get, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I'll make it as big an effort as I can to make sure. I don't know if I need to spoon feed this with emails, to all of you, everything.
No, well, I was pretty condescending, but I think what we requested
Sorry.
was a folder with information. I mean, and honestly, I had no idea about this density walk until.
Oh, it's been,
Okay,
I'm sorry, but it's been on the town Instagram.
Okay, can I please finish, Chair?
And.
I was really
calendars.
rudely interrupted. So it wasn't.
Because I'm feeling accused that you don't know about this. When you do, you tune into the meetings, you hear the.
Hey, excuse me, Susan. I was speaking.
Christina, I know, but I am.
I did not know about it. I have regular updates with all the meetings. It wasn't posted as a meeting, so.
It was posted as a.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
In the agenda center?
It wasn't in the agenda center.
Is it with us?
Under MBTA?
Yeah.
I don't get the cricket.
No.
So I am telling you that I am informed, and thank you for telling me that I tune in, because I do know when I tune in. I think it's really condescending from you, Susan, that you're telling me that I should know about this. Excuse me, I didn't know about it, and I didn't see it posted as a meeting. This is all my question was, this is just another example. If this is going on, I think the planning board should have courtesy emails of events. That's what my point is.
Okay, we can.
That's where I was trying to get with that.
We will do that.
Okay. That's enough on the free ed. So we've agreed that we'll meet with the task force and talk about a forum for maybe late February.
That's fine. And I'm gonna leave it to you, Ron, to schedule, you and I to schedule this thing.
Yeah. So I put this next item, the self-signaling consultant list. I don't think Greg's with us, so we'll pass over that item. We should have a town planner next week. Maybe we'll move on that. So I put this next one, just that April will be around the corner, even though they postponed town meeting to late April. Is there anything the board may want to consider? And it's a healthy agenda in the spring meeting. Is there anything, and I'm not saying we need to take anything on, but anything we want to present to the town in the spring? And it's something you don't have to decide today, but it's something I think we should think about. I know the senior housing bylaw. I don't know if that's something we want to move forward on. Maybe some changes to the curb openings, talking about bylaw changes. I don't know, want to do that, or just do nothing because we have enough on our plate. So something to think about and talk about it next meeting. Anybody has any ideas? Anybody has any ideas now? No.
I will pitch again for the Aquifer Overlay District. There was a great article in the Gloucester Daily Times that Gloucester is with funding from the state. I'm not going to get all the terms right, but they're getting 300 acres of private land into Greenbelt conservation land, and which helps with Gloucester's watershed area. And I think it would be a good idea for Manchester to look at the same with our water issues to do that over by Gravelly.
Require some work, maybe some meeting with Concom, I don't know. Public hearing.
Yep.
You suggesting an overlay district or a land transfer or development rights transfer? What are you thinking?
Well, I did kind of mush that all together, didn't I? So I started out with the Aquifer Overlay District, which would protect the watershed. Then there's also this other, and I can just pie in the sky, but it was a good example of putting land into conservation. They're buying the land, putting it into conservation. That also is protecting their watershed. So for the planning board task, I would see it as starting the conversations about an Aquifer Overlay District bylaw.
Want to draft an outline?
Well, only if people are gonna engage in it. I'm not gonna,
Well, draft the outline and see if we
I think
can.
it's a good idea.
The other thing that Betsy was working on was the floodplain, but I think she kind of left,
So
and that was, so the
floodplain,
floodplain still needs to be
stormwater
addressed.
management needs to be updated.
MS4, was Chuck working on that? I don't know.
So floodplain, we sort of postponed till the maps.
We
come out.
updated stormwater and moved it to the general bylaw.
There was MS4 regulations that should have been done. We haven't done them.
But Betsy had made note in her last report that the stormwater needs updating. It was moved, but it needs updating.
One more. Okay. Good ideas.
So do we know when the maps are gonna be finalized?
Yeah, spring of 2025.
Oh,
Senior housing, so liaison, task force, working group update, senior housing bylaw, any update?
I'm sorry, did we talk about 2025? That seems like a really long time to wait. Why wouldn't we just update it and switch the maps? Didn't we talk about that?
Well, we talked about it and then we have to, then we'll have to update it again in 2025. So,
When we had the speaker come, we went through all of that.
yeah.
I thought Betsy drafted a draft she took the model bylaw and she drafted something. So we need somebody to champion and to move it forward and to own it.
If that's close, then I think that's what should be attempted. It's non-controversial.
I think there's especially it's based on the model bylaw.
Yes.
So to the prior discussion, it's, if we want to move that forward to town meeting, we need to have somebody champion it and bring it forward for a first read, the next read.
You want to do that?
I'm doing it.
Right. You will do that?
I'll do it.
Okay. Back to liaison.
Good for you.
Back to liaison committees, senior housing bylaw. Any update on that?
No.
Harbor management plan advisory.
Harbor management plan ended up not meeting in December. We're meeting day after Martin Luther King Day, whatever that is. Tuesday, the 16th at 5 p.m. on Zoom. And again, the consultant, the next step is to get input on the issues facing the harbor. And we will be talking, I believe, at our meeting about whether to have a forum with sort of the public involved, or potentially first having focus groups with the people who use the harbor, which there are many use groups, and start with that so we get a more robust set of issues rather than sort of the general public at large. And then we have something to kind of take to the general public at large who represent more deeply those groups and others, but also people who may not be represented by a particular group. When I say group, I mean everything from NSA to people who have kayak licenses or, kayak storage, to people who are to have boats at the boat yards, to the Harbor Boat Club, to Legion.
Okay, thank you. CPC, we're meeting on Thursday to vote, approve projects that were given to us. Once the approval goes through, I'll post in our meeting the spreadsheet so you can look at them and the dollars that are involved. Any other liaison committee or working group comments from anyone? Okay, approval of regular minutes, 12/11. I don't think they'll have them done in time. I didn't see them. And so probably for next meeting. Just some other matters, just for the board's information. I got a call over the holidays from Marlene Dolan, Downtown Improvement Committee, wanting me to serve on a task force for they got a grant for signage. For wayfinding in town. So there's a small group going to get together, and then there'll be a presentation to us on what we think of this, putting in wayfinding signs. There's an NOAA grant. Becky's still on or not, but for small communities to plan for climate change, extreme storms. It's to make people aware of climate change. They're looking to have a small committee. I asked Laura Tenney to sit on that. So trying to work out a schedule if her schedule meets the meeting schedule. So we'll see if that works out. And then for the board's information, there is a general meeting of the chairs of all the town chairs, boards, committees on January 25th about governance. So I'll report back to you on how that goes. Tomorrow, CPTC is having a seminar on adopting and revising rules and regulations for boards. I plan to attend. It's at 6 p.m. It's a Zoom meeting. If anyone else is interested, contact CPTC and register.
I did look at that, and I noticed there's a fee. I mean, I don't mind paying the fee, but okay, all right, great. I just wondered how that worked.
I don't know. I don't know if the town would
Yeah,
reimburse.
they usually have reimbursed.
You could probably.
It's like short.
It's not a big deal, but I just wondered about it.
There were 2 other zoning, adopting zoning rules and regulations seminars that I sent to you by email. Forget when they were. That came from MAPC.
Those were free.
I believe
you had one that was from the state, wasn't you?
Yeah, I signed up for that one. You can do it tomorrow or Thursday.
Yeah, tomorrow, but they're on both middle of the day, I think. But anyway, it would be good if people went. Just another one.
Okay, does anyone, that's all I have on stuff. Anyone have anything else?
I don't.
Who does? You have something? Mary.
We need to look at other parts of our rules and regulations, since you talked about that document. We need to get a schedule for that, I guess, or at least on your radar.
Well, Sue and I we started that last meeting, and Sue and I are looking at the site plan and special permit section. That's what we said we talked about that last meeting. We said we would have that for the next meeting.
But I think the entirety of the document is.
Yeah, we just figured that was the next important section.
I mean, it could drag on to when we have a new vote of planning board members. So I just, kind of what's the time frame for us to have rules and regulations? Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. Just to have a goal.
Yeah, I was thinking now it's a new year, we should put together what we think our priorities should be for this coming year.
That was going to be my next thing.
It's going to be taken up by the cell signaling permit
and the MBTA.
And the MBTA. So, we'll have a pretty, talking about multiple meetings. And so, if we could clone ourselves and meet every week, but I don't know if people have the time to do that, but to your point, yes, we have a lot to do.
Yeah, so I mean, that was another, that we used to do goals. We used to have a retreat and do goals. I think that's important as a board to do that.
A retreat?
Well, those don't usually go so well.
I tried retreat, pizza, and
I don't know.
Getting a lot of warm and fuzzy on it. So
I mean, I think a retreat is good. I think we should, of planning board members.
Maybe we could meet in the community center before it moves away.
I don't know if they're operating, but to set the goals and then my other thing, which will get chuckles, but so the master plan committee was formed in 2015 and it was published in 2019. It took 4 years. I don't assume the next phase will do that. We've never updated the master plan, which the goal in the master plan was to kind of review it every year and update it. So I think we've been very lax in that. We should start, the master plan was done before COVID, before proposed 40B, before cell signaling, before MBTA zoning. I think there's a lot of places that it needs updating. So I think that is an important task for planning.
Yep. Now that we have a town planner, it's probably doable. Hopefully, put a lot on his plate.
Do you have his name and resume? Could you share it with us?
Mark,
Resnick.
Resnick, Mark, M-A-R-C, Resnick.
Do you have like a bio or resume or anything?
I think we do in the evening.
Have a resume, yeah.
Did they send it to us?
He does have a LinkedIn profile.
No, I don't know that it went to the whole planning board, but.
Do you have his resume, Ron? Can you share it?
Ron, if I may, it's Becky.
Becky, go ahead.
I think in terms of resume, I would check with HR first to see who is able to get the resume. I would check first with them. What specifically is it you're looking for, Christina or Mary?
It's okay. I'll send it to her. I have it. It's not an issue.
Let me check with HR. This might be an issue.
His background, his experience, where's he strong in? Like, it's normal to share this information with people. It's like, oh my gosh. And just Chris, I literally, the walk wasn't posted under the task force. Just so you know, for reference. I'm pretty good with the text and keeping up on that kind of stuff. Just, it wasn't posted.
It was, but
I'm looking at the agenda center right now.
What wasn't posted? The
Wow.
density? You get the tide?
It wasn't a public meeting. I don't know if there was a quorum of members of subcommittee members there or not, but it wasn't
Well,
posted.
the tide that tells you what.
I get texts with meetings. I don't really rely on the tide for meetings, so.
Oh, I mean, okay.
I'd like to move that we adjourn.
And is there a second?
Second.
Show of hands for adjourn. Thank you all.